Hello everyone, Ryan here. So, back in January, I read a book titled The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And I pretty much enjoyed it. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, I'm not sure if this is supposed to be like an exact retelling of the author's childhood, or rather, I guess, his adolescence. But I do know that it is based in some part on his own life and, you know, the things he experienced growing up on a reservation, and then also leaving that reservation in order to attend school off the reservation. But either way, again, I still enjoyed it. The main character is this kid named Junior, or rather, he goes by Junior. And he also has some kind of, I want to say, because he's supposed to be like, he was born with some kind of brain disorder, not necessarily mental disorder, something to do with when he was born, there was like too much fluid surrounding his brain, or like certain parts of his brain, or and in other words, I guess it had to be drained, but because of that, it affected him in other ways, like affected his balance, his overall equilibrium, and also too, I guess, affected how he walks and moves and all that. And so because of that, growing up, I guess he could never really play too rough with some of the other kids on the reservation, even though they would make fun of him and bully him. And even by the time he became a teenager, he would still be bullied. And one thing I found kind of interesting was that there's a part in this book in which he gets bullied by these two twins on the reservation, but then after they bully him, they like push him down and punch him and kick him, and he mentions that these twins are actually in their 30s. And so I don't know, it was I guess it was kind of like his way of trying to explain that because so many people are living on one reservation, and it's kind of like even the bullies, who are still there, pretty much it's like they don't change, they don't grow out of that phase, they don't stop bullying, because it's they're in such close proximity to the kids, to so many different kids, that they just continue bullying. And it's I guess it's either like, well, and then that, and this, because they don't have much else to do, it's like either that or drink a lot, drink so much that you pass out. And there's also a lot of mentions about alcoholism in this. Some of it is done in a humorous way, but then the rest of it, not so much, because of the fact that, I like that the main character, that he does address the fact that on the reservation that he lived on, and also on so many other reservations, unfortunately, too many people living on these reservations succumb to alcoholism, and a lot of them end up, experiencing major health problems, and eventually die from these health problems, which is all due to alcoholism. And so I don't exactly know, because I came across some other reviews of this on Goodreads, in which some people didn't like that aspect of this book. I guess because they thought it was going to be like, Because I mean, for the most part, every other part of it is as lighthearted as possible, except for this part of it, and then also too the fact that the main character, he has to deal with the death of his grandmother. Well, actually, I think that might be kind of a spoiler. Well, not really. I mean, because when he first talks about his grandmother, she's already pretty old, anyways. So I mean, it's yeah. And then also too, he has to deal with 2 other deaths of people he's close to. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil anything more. So yeah, I mean, I guess technically this could be classified as a YA novel because it does have that, because there's a lot of teenage stuff in it. But it's not like the typical YA trope stuff. Even Junior's love interest in this is a girl named Penelope, but they don't have this like picture perfect romance or anything. In fact, in the beginning, she pretty much hates him, and she doesn't start liking him until she kind of like starts to take pity on him in a way. Or no, actually, first, she's made to believe that he's like really rich, and then later on she still likes him, but mostly because she, takes pity on him. But then he also later learns that she's much more complicated too, and that pretty much, she only pretends to be this beautiful, perfect person, and so, which I believe can be applied to a lot of people, kids, teenagers, adults, anyone. So, I will say that I like the end. The ending definitely nicely sums up things. I mean, what else was I going to say? I mean, as far as the rating goes, I give this 4 out of 5 stars. Some of the humor in it, that's right. I wanted to talk about some of the humor in it might not be for everybody because there is some like really crude humor. But it's definitely like the kind of stuff that you would expect from a teenage boy. It's definitely the kind of stuff that I heard growing up when I was a kid and also a teenager. So for me, it wasn't really shocking. I found it to be more hilarious than anything else. I wish I could give an example without kind of spoiling it, because I feel like it's just like those moments in this book that kind of catch you off guard a little bit, because like, especially there's like some moments that are really serious, and then all of a sudden like he cracks a crude joke, and it kind of catches you off. So it's like either you laugh about it or you're slightly offended by it. Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, I think that most people who have read this ended up being offended by most of the crude jokes in this. I mean, it's understandable, obviously. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, if you're used to crude jokes and that kind of humor, then you'll no doubt find it as hilarious as I did. So it's, yeah, I did read the 10th anniversary edition of this, and there's like extra content towards the end of the book, like an interview with the author, and then he includes photos from his childhood growing up on the reservation, and mentions some of the people that the characters in this book were based on, and which is interesting. I didn't read all of the extra content, but skimmed through it enough, and yeah. So I definitely enjoyed this. It was definitely the first time I've read anything that had anything to do with a kid growing up on a reservation, and because I liked that it gave me that kind of perspective, like I like that it was told from this perspective, someone growing up on a reservation, and how it was hard for them to deal with, leaving the reservation in order to get a good education, and then, being criticized by his friends on the reservation, because they felt like he was abandoning them, that he was leaving them, leaving his roots behind and all that, which he really wasn't. And so he had to deal with that. And then also when he went to this new school off the reservation, he was then criticized because he was a new kid and he looked kind of weird, talked kind of weird, talked differently. He looked different, talked different, acted different. And so, of course, naturally, kids being as cruel as they are, made fun of him, in the beginning. Eventually they grew to like him, but, it was obviously a hard adjustment. Usually that tends to be the case. I've noticed, anytime we go to a new school or move to a new neighborhood or, start a new job or something, obviously there's going to be a period of adjustment. There's going to be people that rub us the wrong way, and eventually pretty much forced to figure out a way to deal with those things, obstacles. So yeah, again, I give this 4 out of 5 stars. I do recommend reading it. I feel like everybody should read this at least once. Despite the crude humor in it, but then, yeah, again, if you're easily offended by that kind of humor, then I would say you probably shouldn't read it. I don't know, or whatever you want to do. So either way, thanks for watching this. And as always, the next time, don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.